run it up, to run it back.
Well, there it is, our buddy old pal, Shams Charania, Milwaukee Bucks sending Khris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, a pick swap to the Wizards for KUZMA, Patrick Baldwin Jr., and second-round draft compensation. So here we go. We're about 29 hours away from the trade deadline. Things might start picking up here, guys. Immediate reaction. Lou, what's that? Hold on. Oh, here he is. Sam Amick joins us, senior NBA writer for The Athletic. I was like, I thought you were coming on. Okay, so here we go. We'll get to Luka in a second, but let's just do our quick reactions other than our thoughts and prayers to Khris Middleton. But what do you think, Sam? Do you like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We joke, Khris, man, all that history he's got in Milwaukee. Oh. This is a tough day for him. The reliability, you talk about Luka, we'll get into it physically and all the questions about durability. Khris had a lot of issues with that. I don't know. We'll see if this pans out for the Bucks. You look at Kyle this year in Washington, and he just, his numbers fell off a cliff. Now, I know they were, worst team in the league, and they're rebuilding, and a lot of dynamics that came into play there. But this is something that they talked about for the last couple of days. It was pretty clear yesterday that it was going to get over the finish line. AJ was kind of the thing that they were going back and forth about. But we'll see. Milwaukee obviously feels like they need to inject some new life into that core.
Hey, Sam, let me ask you this real quick. The word loyalty has been thrown around.
What is it?
Sure.
How loyal are the Milwaukee Bucks and that franchise to now ship Khris Middleton, who's given everything to this organization, everything to this franchise, and you just ship him off to the Washington Wizards? How loyal is that?
Yeah, no, it's fair, Chandler. I mean, it is. You saw in the wake of the LUKA situation, this absolute, swell of support from stars around the league. And it is fair. I loved what Giannis had to say. Steph talked about it, that the loyalty is not a two-way street. If you sat here and had a pie graph of how many players at least try to be loyal, along the way, I think that far exceeds the number of teams that lose sleep at night thinking about being loyal to their guys. And I don't know if we're going to even talk Warriors today, but for me, that they come to mind too, right? Because they're in the middle of this desperate time where they're trying to get another star. And as of yesterday, we're looking at it going, oh boy, they might actually get off Draymond or do something like that. Ooh. Where the loyalty questions come into play with a situation like that too. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's 100% been discussed internally, and that speaks to what you're talking about.
And that's also, I think, it's to where you get traded. If you're going to get off Draymond, at least have the DC to send him to a contender or something like that.
Right.
Khris Middleton, sending him to Washington. I can't. Yeah. I'm picturing a buyout, right? Is that an option? There's no way he stays there.
I'd have to imagine. Yeah. I mean, Washington's not trying to get, prime Khris Middleton, giving him 22 a night. I don't think that's what they want right now. So I could see that being in the card.
It's crazy. That being said, I do love the trade for Milwaukee. I really do.
Oh, so let
me ask you guys a question really quick as far as Milwaukee is concerned. Because a couple of weeks ago, Kyle Kuzma's name came up, and we said if he gets traded to a team, does that make them a contender? Now that the trade is done and he's going to the Milwaukee Bucks, does that make the Milwaukee Bucks better?
It makes him better. I don't know if it makes him a contender. I don't know if it puts him in the category with the Cavs, with the Bucks, with the Knicks, or with the Celtics, with the Knicks. But I think he provides them more shooting, he's healthy. He's younger than Khris Middleton. A.J. Johnson, he's a stud. He hasn't got a lot of opportunity, but he's kind of one of these young guys that I think they're going to miss eventually. But I do think it's somewhat of a lateral move. But Khris Middleton, I feel like his best basketball are behind him, and I do think Kyle Kuzma can kind of fill that hole.
Well, and Sam, I like what you said, an injection of life. That's what it feels like too. Maybe if you think it's lateral, that's one thing, but it is something new, something different. Sometimes what it takes. Let's get to it, because the shocking trade heard around the world, the Luka Doncic situation, it legitimate shockwaves. I thought we were all past the point of being shocked by anything in our lives, and here we are, and it's gotten a lot of reaction from the biggest names as y'all have talked about. But now we're seeing Kevin Durant's name in a lot of places with trade rumors, which is weird. What's the latest with KD?
Yeah, it's escalated quickly, as the kids say. We'll see what happens. I think that the Warriors thing is very real. Admittedly, I'm a West Coaster like you guys, so we're kind of getting rolling right now to figure out where the intel is at today. There were moments last night where I thought, this was actually going to happen, which is wild to say, because as of early yesterday, the information coming out of the Warriors was some frustration with the Suns in terms of just kind of the talks and the back and forth, mixed messaging where, as you guys know, there's a lot of times layers to these talks where the formal indication might be, we are not coming off Kevin Durant. And then behind the scenes, they're finding ways to make it clear, like, well, if you gave us the entire package, then maybe we do. Things to look at. Jonathan Kuminga is a guy that, as we reported yesterday, the Suns definitely have interest in a possible long-term future. I think that matters. Then you're possibly talking about a Brandon Pajemski, Wiggins in there. But the thing that has changed is that we went from thinking that, Jimmy Butler would somehow find his way to Phoenix. Then you would have that Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal core, Devin Booker that would, do their thing. The Beal factor remains, and I do not see that changing, that he's not coming out of Phoenix. And so now the tightrope act that the Suns are having to walk here, and this is Warriors related, is the idea that if you don't get Jimmy, that there are pretty strong indications that you're going to probably have to worry about where Kevin's head is at. And so that's where around the league, teams are suddenly realizing that this is real. So the Warriors are trying to get that done. They're not alone. A lot of things flying around about, Dallas, I wrote yesterday, and I do not think they anticipated Kevin being available now, but strong ties between Nico Harrison and Kevin, and an idea of possibly adding Kevin to their core. I think they were hoping maybe that would be this summer. So a lot of kind of subplots.
Nico has turned into like the most important person of this trade deadline, all of us.
Yeah.
What is happening right now? So look, and I get it. I think the LUKA thing, at least for me, I know all of a sudden anything I thought I knew about how trades worked and what's available, it's gone, right? I feel like, and I'm doing that across the leagues now because I'm like, oh, it's all no more rules. KD in Dallas though, like that's a thing.
Well, I think the thing that we learned yesterday that regardless of what happens, I'm a sucker for understanding the different relationships, right? And what is crystal clear to me now is that, we know Nico's history. You're talking about longtime respected Nike executive who knew AD really, really well, right? Knew Kyrie really, really well. He's going with people who he knows, who, oh, by the way, are, former Nike clients and guys that he has history with. The idea seems to be that whether it's, you can somehow get your hands on Kevin, which I don't see happening right now, certainly, or there's a lot of chatter about LeBron this summer. If you could convince LeBron to, not pick up that player option and come join you in the Big D, then you try to do that. But it's kind of that, I joked with somebody yesterday. It's like that AAU style kind of former Nike crew getting back together. But that, I think that's the spirit of what Nico is trying to build.
But Sam, I thought they were tanking in Dallas so they could be moved to Las Vegas. Yeah. This really flies in the face of all of that.
My God.
Conspiracies. If we had to put $1 on it, is Jimmy Butler getting moved by the deadline tomorrow?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's, and I think we'll see if they can get it done. But I do think, if we're putting the $1 on it, that gets done. It's so hot in Miami, man, between the two sides. It's so miserable. And they, I think, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but it's so dysfunctional and so, I don't know that I've ever seen two sides go at each other like this. And really it's the Heat are doing their thing, but Jimmy's, he's rattling the cages. So I think it gets done.
Sam, how is Jimmy blocking all these trades? Like, he doesn't have a no trade clause, right? Is he just his camp is telling his other teams he won't re-sign there? He won't, so it's just like a rental? Like, how does he keep blocking every single deal that you hear about? And like, how is it only Phoenix? I don't understand.
Chandler, that intel, I'll just say some of the stuff that's been out there, I don't think is spot on. His agent Bernie Lee is just, there's some wild stuff flying, and so I think they're mucking it up, if you will, because to your point, he doesn't have a no trade clause. Even on the Warriors front, it was reported that he told them he wouldn't sign an extension. There were some Warriors folks who found that humorous because it was kind of that you can't fire me, I quit type thing. Yeah. Like I didn't remember the extension being in play. I think they were looking at him mostly like a rental, and then we'll take it from there. I don't think promises were going to be made. But at minimum, if you create enough chaos, the human part comes in, where teams are like, my God, what is this going to be like if we do bring you to town?
And one more dollar we got to put on it, because it went from Warriors aren't waving the white flag,
big bettors
but
here.
then, yeah, I know, right? With so many dollars. Are they making a move by the deadline tomorrow? Will they be adding a major piece?
I think so, because, and you talk about a sea change, guys. You know, what was it, 2 weeks ago, where we had Steph talking about patience and not compromising the long-term future, you know, and kind of prudence and that type of thing. Now you have, I don't know if you saw the clip the other night, you know, Draymond after the game when they beat Orlando was talking about Joe Lacob and just really honestly saying, like, we know that our owner, Joe Lacob, is pissed, and we know what that looks like. So it's just back into star hunting mode in a pretty aggressive manner. Our guy who covers the Warriors, Anthony Slater, had some great detail in a story the other day about that Magic game. Or I'm sorry, it was the Phoenix game before that, where Rich Kleiman, Kevin Durant's longtime agent and friend, was sitting with Joe Lacob at the game, going to the Bridge Club with Joe Lacob at the game. We didn't have a wire on these guys to know exactly what the conversation looked like, but sometimes the obvious needs to get highlighted. So that was interesting, and now. The other part of this question with the Warriors and what are they going to do is, if this reunion is going to happen, is where is Kevin's head at? On the one hand, things are so imperfect in Phoenix, and I could see him looking at greener pastures. But man, and I covered those Warriors teams so closely, I know really well the tricky dynamics between all the people that remain. Steph and Steve Kerr and certainly Draymond and Kevin. So. I mean, if that happens, those are going to be really interesting questions.
Absolutely. So, Sam, we just saw Kyle Kuzma get moved. You still got Brandon Ingram out there, Bradley Beal. Obviously, Jimmy Butler's name's been in the news. You got Cam Johnson out there. With the clock ticking down, out of all of these guys, who do we see finding a new home by Friday?
I mean, the Cam, start with that one. Cam Johnson's interesting because they put a pretty high price tag on it. Even in my neck of the woods, the Kings have looked at that for a long time, but the question was, are you really, I mean, they were asking for 2 firsts, and if it's not 2 firsts, then it's like a really good first. And I don't know if they're going to come off that, but Cam is a guy that could really help a team. We hit on Jimmy. Man, Lou, who else did you throw at me, brother? I'm sorry.
Brandon Ingram is out there. Cam Johnson's out there.
Right.
Well, New Orleans is worth looking at. Because again, this is maybe even Warriors related, or teams like the Warriors, have New Orleans as possibly a plan B or plan C, right? Where it's like, go ahead and call about BI, he's certainly available. And then, if you're interested, even ask about Zion and try to do something like that. BI is an option for the Warriors and I think other teams. I don't think the Pelicans are going to come off Zion, but he's just a guy who's going to get you buckets and help your team. And that's where, maybe I got recency bias, but tomorrow is potentially going to be one of the more explosive final days of the trade deadline that we've seen, because when these pieces come off the board, then where do the teams turn?
Sam, I got to circle back to this LUKA AD trade just for a second, because in my lifetime, I've never seen a trade like this. It's such a shock. It's such a surprise. What was your initial reaction? Did you think it was a joke? Do you think Shams got hacked like we all did? And will we ever see a mega deal like this get done again, just in the complete darkness? Like, are you buying that only 2 people besides the owners knew about this for 2, 3, 4 weeks, however long since they got the infamous coffee?
First of all, Chandler, I've loved you having a voice and a platform on this story. You're just really well positioned to weigh in, right? Like the history you have with Mark. I loved the stuff you shared about your interaction with Mark yesterday, because I'm a sucker for let's get to the truth, right? And Mark's reaction to you was very genuine, where we could say, he was kind of wondering what was going on too. I was stunned. I was in the car driving with my young 15-year-old son, and notification popped on the phone, and I damn near drove off the road. I mean, I couldn't believe what was. I'm not even exaggerating. It was a 1-lane highway, And, I almost took a bite there. But
Sam, do you find out these things like we find out on Twitter and Instagram and social media, or do you have the drop before we do?
I mean, Lou, I shouldn't admit it. I don't always have the drop. Like, I didn't have the drop. And I will tell you and I can't share this whole story, but it is hilarious. I will say this much. I was in LA last week, and I had a pretty extensive meeting with somebody who knew this was happening. So it is hilarious to circle back with, in situations like that and just have a laugh about it. Like, oh, that was interesting. Thanks for not telling me then, and they couldn't. That's what they were doing. It was kept incredibly quiet. I mean, you could quibble about, I think later in the process, a couple people on staff were looped in because, you need to talk to your people about moves, but it was incredibly tight. Even the third team component, Danny Ainge and the Jazz not knowing until the very end, what type of trade they were a part of. And it's, as much as this league for front office people is about turning over every rock, I think what this trade also reminds us is the impact of relationships and the fact that a lot of times, because the media plays such a big part where you might want to talk about a certain type of situation, but then it leaks. And once it leaks, then the fans react and people within your organization react, and it changes the discussion. So Nico Harrison's relationship with Rob Pelinka it's a pretty fascinating part of this whole deal. These guys rocked with each other and had trust, and that was huge.
See, but Sam, that's where I have the problem isn't that part of the business as well, that players have to be professional and hear these rumors, and then if it doesn't happen, you go back? The GMs, the owner should have that same sort of professionalism to players, especially Luka Doncic, to not have him completely in the dark and blindsided like this. So that's where I kind of have the frustration. And then all of a sudden there's this narrative about, oh, he's 270 pounds and he's a drinker or whatever it is. Watch the dude play. The dude is productive, and yeah, does he look like the captain of all health team? No, neither does Jokic, by the way, and look what he does. So, do you think that was actually the concern?
Captain of the all health team.
Yeah, like, do you think that was the actual concern? Did they get cold feet about paying this dude $80+ million on a supermax deal? Like, was it a personal? Like, what do you actually think was the reason? Because you don't just wake up and say, I'm going to trade Luka.
Couldn't agree more. Time's going to tell. I mean, this is one of those incredible sports situations where, whatever our opinions are now doesn't really matter. Like, tell me in 10 years, what this looks like. We talk over-unders on championships. Did he win 2-3 titles with the Lakers? He has a chance here to have the last laugh. Now, yes, the Mavs had serious concerns about his body, and that was a combination of on-court, off-court stuff. But my God, then you look at the production. You look at, the idea that, I covered those finals, and admittedly, you watch Luka in the finals, and you would be equally just amazed by what he was able to do. And then at times, you would look at him. I remember he had that left knee injury where I've never seen a player where he had blood coming through like the wrap on his knee on a regular basis, which I thought was just such a strange thing. So he does. Like, the optics at times are like, man, he's so incredible, but then he does look like, he moves like the 40-year-old guy at the pickup game, but he's remarkable. And I do think the irony here, and where if I had to handicap it, the Mavs are going to ultimately look bad in this situation, is that you could not have handed him more motivation than not only the way you sent him out, but the fact that you put him on basketball's biggest stage with the Lakers, and I would anticipate that he's going to find a way to get his body in the best situation possible and be an absolute monster. But, those concerns were very real, and we'll see if they were, well-founded.
I will say they broke up and he moved on to a better chick, Lou.
It's even better. He's gonna look. It's the revenge bod thing. Like, everybody has that fantasy is like come back.
The beach. He can go out there, go to Venice, go get your beach workout on with all the muscle bros. Go do your thing, Luka.
By the way, did you guys see his reaction to you talk about beaches? Did you see the ocean comment that he made yesterday?
Yes, it was adorable.
He's not going to the ocean today, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, like that type of stuff, though. Like, I'm from Slovenia, man. Like that, he's used to being close enough to beaches and that kind of lifestyle. He's going to be motivated. The LeBron thing I'm fascinated to see, you guys joked earlier, Mike Mancias is the famous LeBron trainer who's done incredible work with him for so long. So channel as much as that as you can and try to kill this narrative.
He's also got fellow Slovenian on the Kings over there, Anže Kopitar, and who's already, sent out a message. So I feel like it's going to find a nice place in Manhattan Beach. It's going to be amazing. And that trade was cute and all, Sam. But let's get to the real trade nobody's talking about properly. De'Aaron Fox officially becoming a Spur and basically giving up, no offense, but not a lot. How did this get pulled off with not giving up Castle or Vassell or any of that?
Yes, the Michelle Beadle victory lap continues.
Thank you.
It's remarkable. The Kings clearly early in the talks came to the conclusion that they were not going to be able to get their hands on, Stephon Castle or Devin Vassell or Keldon Johnson. If you're a Spurs fan, you got to love that. And not only that, you didn't even give up your best first round pick. So this is a tricky one and a puzzling one. On my side of it, being in NorCal, there's a lot of frustration, I think, within the Kings. I think a lot of their players are, and it's obviously nothing against Zach LaVine. He's a fantastic player, and really player for player, like you filled the De'Aaron Fox void to an extent. But in terms of the long-term plan and the questions of, why would you not get more to take us to a new level? There's confusion there. The Spurs found a way to have the Chicago Bulls come in here and throw them a hell of a lob. You know what I mean? Like the Bulls' involvement was massive. And, I feel somewhat guilty saying this because it's pretty easy these days to bang on the Bulls front office. But, it is rough. If you look at the totality of what they got for Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan,
brutal.
It's just, I don't have everything in front of me, but it's terrible. It's not good work in terms of turning players into assets and really rebuilding. But the Spurs are thrilled. Victor and De'Aaron, are going to be great. And now yes, they're merging. But is Castle going to be the guy? Is he going to take that leap? Do they go find another guy? Fox, as a quick aside, in my opinion, I think he's such a great player, but I think he's very, very comfortable with the idea that I can be a number 2 or number 3 or a 2A on a championship team. I think that's where his head is at. And I think, maybe that happens.
And Sam, we talked about this. We talked about this outside the Thunder, Spurs, second brightest future in the NBA.
Yeah, no, for sure. In fact, as this deal was going to happen, I thought it was hilarious.
There was some more time. Yeah,
there was some off stuff happening. OKC didn't want this happening. Like teams were hoping the Fox thing wouldn't happen for sure.
Yeah, that's too bad for them, isn't it? All right, well, Sam, love having you on. What a week it's been already, and we still got about 27 more hours. We will have Paul Shear.
There he is.
Paul's going to have some opinions on what the Lakers have done. He's a super Clippers fan. We'll be right back.